Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. The topics discussed in this podcast will reflect my opinions and are not in any way to be regarded as medical advice. This is from the "yes, we actually knew the sky is blue before the science told us" file. But I think it's still worth having a look at and discussing because occasionally, in fact maybe a bit more often than occasionally, it's useful for all of us, and I include myself in this, to be reminded of what actually is the obvious. Aerobic exercise shows a linear relationship with weight loss, with 30 minutes of weekly exercise linked to reduced body weight, waist circumference and body fat in adults who are overweight or had obesity. Yeah, I think we probably knew that, but there is an interesting Zen saying that says to know and not to do is not yet to know. So if we know that it's good to do some exercise and we don't do it, it's not really going to help us that much. And it's also important to remember the adage that you can't outrun a bad diet. So 30 minutes of exercise over and above what you're currently doing, and that's assuming for the moment that you're doing less than that, is going to be beneficial for weight loss, but by itself is not going to take the pounds off. Is at the end of your session, you go and get a donut and a soft drink. There are lots of other benefits to exercise, and this article off the A4M site, quote, "If there's something you could do to more than halve your risk of death, physical activity is enormously powerful." Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to die, but this study looked at people exercising over 40 and found, and I'll quote, "If everyone was as physically active as those in the top 25%, those over the age of 40 could add 5 years to their life," according to a study from Griffith University. The most active people were found to have a 73% lower risk of death than those who were the least active. Now, these figures like 73% sound really quite impressive, and that's not saying that these people are not going to die. And 73% less can be from 1% to 0.27%. We always have to remember that relative versus absolute risk reduction is quite deceptive. The study found increasing physical activity levels could extend lifespan by 11 years, and for the least active people, a single hour walk could provide an additional 6 hours of life. Now, I think what that probably means is you need to do an hour walk more often than once, because I'm not sure living 6 hours longer is going to be enormously beneficial to most people. Surprise, surprise, the least active stand to gain the most benefits from increasing physical activity. So the question could arise, if we know this, and this is not news, I suspect, to any listeners out there. If it is, look, I hope this is useful for you. And if it is, if you already knew it, it's a reminder. The question is, what's stopping us from doing regular physical activity? Now, the first reason people will give is time. I don't have the time. Well, each and every one of us has 24 hours in the day. Yes, some of us may be busier than others, but that really says that we are prioritising other aspects of our life above physical exercise and activity. We may have meetings, we may have work to do, we have family, and all of those are important, and they all require our time. But it's interesting that often the people who are the busiest are often the ones who will hit the gym, variably at 6 a.m. or 6:30 p.m., and they will find some time to do it. Now, on this, I'll speak from personal experience, and look, I'm not the busiest person on the whole planet, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm not busy. For probably the best part of 20 years now, I have had in my diary 2 sessions with a personal trainer each week, and they're in the diary. Now, some weeks I need to move it, and some weeks I'm away, and some weeks it doesn't go your way. But most weeks of the year, and I'd say probably 48 to 50 weeks of the year, I will be at the gym with the trainer. If not at those 2 slots, then a moved slot. So, for example, if I'd normally train on a Thursday and have a commitment on a Thursday, I'll look to move it to a Friday. Now, again, you can't do that every week. But if we had meetings with other people or other commitments, we tend to keep them because we think it's important, and it is. Keeping an appointment with ourselves for our own health is as important. One of my favourite lines, when you're on a plane, I'll say, if oxygen is required, fit your own mask first before helping other people. Now, is that be saying to you, yes, you should take all the oxygen and nobody else is deserving of any and you should be selfish? No, of course not. What it is saying is that if you want to help other people, you need to have your own oxygen mask first. If you are not getting oxygen, you're not going to be able to help your children or your partners or people, sitting next to you who may need assistance. So it's not about denying anybody anything. It's about making sure that you are in a situation where you can help those that you may want to or be able to help. And outside of an airplane setting, that same principle applies. Now, we don't need oxygen masks because there's plenty in the air, obviously. But looking after our own health so that we can be at our best for our families, that we can do our best in our work or other pursuits, means looking after our own health. And the oxygen mask from our own health obviously includes eating sensibly, drinking plenty of water, managing our stress, what in my book I described as the 8 pillars of health. And one of them is exercise and physical activity. So if you're going to the gym or going for a run and taking some time to do that, no, it's not being selfish. It's part of having your oxygen mask fitted. Now, what is the best exercise to do? The best exercise to do is the type that you enjoy, because if you enjoy it, you're likely to keep at it. Now, again, personally, I go running. I don't go go particularly fast. I'm not breaking any land speed records, but I enjoy running. I don't particularly enjoy riding a push bike. So there's no point somebody telling me ride a push bike because it probably won't happen. Equally, I know people who really enjoy riding push bikes. Fantastic. And they will do that, and they don't particularly like going running. Other people like swimming. Some people like rowing. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you do it, as the shoe company used to say. And it's also important to have a mix of aerobic exercise, so that's cardiac, things like running, swimming, bike riding, rowing, any sort of cardiovascular type exercises that raises your heart rate, and also strength or resistance training. And particularly as you get older, maintaining muscle mass is critically important for preventing sarcopenia. Now, we hear a lot about osteoporosis, which is where the bones get a bit more brittle or thinner. You don't hear a lot about sarcopenia for the very simple reason is there's no pharmaceutical agent for it. There are pharmaceuticals for osteoporosis, but even for that, and women are more susceptible than men to osteoporosis. We know that weight-bearing exercise and resistance exercise is very, very useful for preservation of bones as well as muscles. We also know that sarcopenia, which again is loss of muscle as age goes along, is a major contributor to falls, and falls in turn is a major contributor to fractured hips, and then you end up in hospital and it unleashes a cascade. Now, none of this is to say that there are force fields and it's impossible that you can't meet an untimely or early end. It happens. It's just life. What we can do, though, is fit our proverbial oxygen mask, and part of that is doing some regular exercise. So put it in your diary. Set out times that are likely to suit you and look at them as you would look at any other commitment. It's not a commitment to somebody else, it's a commitment to yourself. How much time should you do? Look, again, this is different for different people. Start at what you can manage, but, aim for 4 times a week would be my suggestion. If you can do 5, better still, but if you can aim for 4, good. Can you aim for half an hour? Good. If you can only manage 20 minutes, okay. Anything is better than nothing. But most importantly, do that which you enjoy. Because if you enjoy it, you'll stick with it. Join a group. That can be very beneficial to train with other people. And that sometimes is a way of keeping you committed, because you think, well, if everybody else is going to show up for the group, I need to do so too. And for some people, that's a useful prod or prompt. So that's worthwhile. Get together with some friends. Same if you're going bike riding, or if you're going to the pool, or, running tends to be a little bit more of a solo pursuit. So that might suit people who are a bit more that way inclined, and that probably tells you something. And just keep at it regularly. Start at a level that you can manage. So don't be discouraged if you go running and you can't run 50 kilometres the first day. Of course you can't. It's ridiculous to even consider that, but just as for the example. So make it a priority. Put it in your diary. Do what works for you, and keep at it. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and consider subscribing. Tell your friends. If there are topics you'd like to see covered, be in touch through the chat or email info@drjoe.net.au. We'll be uploading new content each Monday, and soon we'll be putting these videos out on X. You can follow me there at Dr. Joe's DIY Health.